Okay, looks like we're recording now, Ashley. Um, I guess the first thing you're seeing right off the bat is the VenCorps homepage.
Hmm.
Okay, so right off the bat, it's a basic layout. It was kind of interesting that you had five topic areas because we've kind of, our base layout involves five subject categories. So that was somewhat convenient on our side. So maybe the easiest thing to do is from this view, I've actually preloaded your information into the VenCorps. Now, VenCorps is a different login. It's not open to the public, so you have to request an invite to do that. So the control that we have within VenCorps, there's many options that we can either load people or they can request an invite. So there's some options for various platforms depending on what you're trying to achieve. So VenCorps, we wanted to restrict it for certain people. But here you can see is our basic login screen. Okay. And I'm going to I've pre-selected your information and you'll see the network status that I have the ability to toggle. And this is really important so we can define the different user groups. So within your environment, you're going to have very different user groups and you may want different functionality for them at different points, depending if they're a subscriber or a partner. We do that right on the front end to determine what dashboard they're going to see. So in this case, we just have two. We have an entrepreneur and a judge coach. This is for a challenge we ran last month in partnership with Mass Challenge. So I'm going to actually just select you as an entrepreneur so you can see that view. And I'm actually going to use your last name as your password.
Okay.
Okay, click agree to the terms and conditions. And you can, if you link through here, you can see the terms and conditions pop up. Pretty standard. We wanted to keep this simple for what everybody will expect. Okay, and we also got the privacy policy that someone could link through and understand what we're trying to do. And again, we would tailor this depending on what your needs would be. Okay, so I'm back to the Ainsworth. So let me just type you. And select join. So now you can see just the basic dashboard that would come up. In this case, this was an entrepreneur that we wanted to capture their business idea as part of a New York challenge. So right off the bat, it highlights the instruction we want them to do. So easily what I can do is I can update my profile. And what I did for you is I went online and found a picture of yourself. And I'll just add that in now. Okay. And I can put a little bio in here. I think there we go. And just click update information and we're away. And I can click there. This is a page where we can change the notification settings. Here we just have receive email updates. So I've clicked it that you would receive an email update of anything going on. So you can see what's popped up on the screen right now. Just a basic profile, very simple, gives a little detail of who you are. Your network status, right now I set you up as an entrepreneur and the campaign is the New York City Impact, okay? So from an entry standpoint, let's say, give me a health innovation idea maybe you have.
Okay.
uh, why don't we just call it the Virginia Health, oh, it help if I can spell, innovation. Great initiative. Really think that's awesome. So whatever, this is a way to set up the front end for someone who has an idea. So this will just show you our entry and the way this form can come in. So in some way, this could be your survey form, the questionnaire, could be anything that you want. Each one of these boxes, everything can be changed to meet what you need. In this case, we selected an idea category, NYC Impact Challenge, and we could collect a subcategory. could be anything. And what this does is it helps us organize our back end. So if we do it right on the front end, it's a lot easier to manage the data, and we can choose which data we want certain networks to see. So from the get-go, it's really important that we define the categorizations. So if this was an innovation, we could put your website. We could easily choose your logo. If you have additional attachments, PowerPoints, if you had a YouTube video, all of this can easily be updated and for an entry point. So all of these are adaptable. So if I went and filled in all this information and I put in a logo, I'll maybe just show you what it would look like relative to someone else that's there. So in this case, your idea would come up, Virginia Health Innovation Network. Now, in this case, there's challenge participants. We had 14 participants in this challenge. So I can just give you an example of one that was completed. Maybe I'll go to Coach Up. So this is what it looks like when it's completed. And you'll see across the top, we lock out certain functionality depending on what we want the users to do. And we add this depending on where they are in their process. This was a very simple idea challenge. And basically, we wanted their summary, we wanted their idea, and we wanted their solution. And we had some communication with them back and forth. And you can see how the multimedia would kick in if there was a video. So the video pops up in the screen so they don't leave the screen. Click, click, click here. And the demo video starts explaining what they do. So that's...
What about documents?
Sorry?
What about documents?
Yeah, we can add in documents. All of these fields, depending on what you wanted to do. Along the right side, we could have had PowerPoint presentations or what have you. In the business plan module we have designed, which we didn't use for this challenge, actually allows for all of that. So you can actually, and one of the things that we really like with our platform, we can decide what's private and what's public to the network. Because with entrepreneurs, that's a really important part of how they share information. So that's just the basic VenCorps platform, how in that case for the New York City Challenge, we managed the information. Now, if I went to the home screen and I went to, okay, that's you. I'm going to just log you out and then I'm going to come back in as me. And you'll see that I have a different view. And I can remember we said in the document, we could change this to anything that you want. Whether for us, we just, in this case, we want it, remember me for 2 weeks and log in. So here I don't have an idea, but I have a dashboard of all of the innovations that were participating in this challenge. So we can change the views for various users. And that's what we did in this case. We had different judges that would have a different view and they would just see the participants. Now this could be by category. It's quite easy once we set the categories to organize this as a back end for the information. So what we'll do is I want to show you. So that's just the basic VenCorps, how we ran a challenge. Okay, what we're going to do is going to go right to what the water droplet, which is similar, has the exact same functionality. Okay, again, the network status, how we choose. In this case, we just had one, which was a charter member. And I'm going to add in your password. And you can come back at any given time by using your email address. And your last name is your password. And you can change that as you want.
Okay.
So now here's a different dashboard because we wanted to do something different for the water droplet. Again, if I came here, I can quickly update a picture. I can add in a bio and update the information. Okay, so in this case, the dashboard was different because for the water droplet, what we wanted to do initially, which is probably very similar to the inventory project, we want people to get here and immediately do an action. In this case, what we wanted to do was to get feedback on what issue they thought was most pressing. So what we did was we added very basic functionality that a person could uh, vote, and at that point, we're able to immediately see what area we wanted to focus and design the water droplet for. Okay, we could reset the votes as we see fit. So in this case, we had 5 subject areas that we wanted to focus on. So let's just go to supply and distribution as a topic area. And here we've laid out a little content that we can adapt and change. And we created an innovation gap. And we did this just to have a discussion on to lay the foundation for further discussions and further ideas. Now, one of the things you were highlighting is, do you have the ability to create groups? And we call them droplets for the water droplet, individual groups under a subject category. So people have the ability to create individual subject groups, to create forum discussions, to have active chat relating to a specific topic. And you can just see basic comment functionality. I could leave a comment right now and saying, and what I have, if I log in, okay, you'll see on your screen right off the bat with you logged in, if you make a comment, you can immediately delete it. Okay, so if it's something you didn't want to say, you could delete it. Or on the admin screen, I have the ability to delete all the comments. So we actively monitor, ensure that we're having as robust discussion as we can. Okay, now in this example, this is relating to supply and distribution. We have over what we call as what's on the landscape, and this is how we integrate into Inno360. Is we have the ability from here to directly log in and see what the Inno360 search and databases come up with. In this case, you can see, and I'll go right into that screen so you can see it, because I did a specific search for you guys. So right now we're on the Inno360 screen that you'd log in. Now we turned it off on the water droplet because we wanted to hold back and guide them a little bit differently by droplet so we can narrow down the amount of information they're getting. Because it is a bit overwhelming. Right now on my screen, you can see that off to the left, you see the projects. And I know Ian walked through Inno360, but in this case, what I pulled up, because it was something you wanted to see, is I created an instance relating specifically to, and I'll actually go to the need statement. So in here, I just took one of your categories, payment and delivery reform to improve chronic disease and integration of physical and mental health. And I typed in Virginia. Okay. So from that search, this is what came up. It has to go through a few So that's the data that's come up specifically for IP and patents. There's 148,000 results. And I could break it down to deep web. And what we're going to want to try to do is narrow that down so it's usable within the groups. Okay, so in this case, let's say it was deep web, and I can change the view. I think the cluster circles is a better view, and try to integrate this information into the discussion that would be happening on the Virginia Health Innovation Network. In terms of valuable information, you can change the type of users that have direct access to this. If you only want certain users to have just common access, we can change all of that depending on how you want them to integrate with the tool. And I think that's important is given the different types of users you'll have at different times, you may want to add additional tools and functionality for subscribers, or you may want to just have limited functionality. So all of that's possible and easy to do. So what I've asked Ian to do, and unfortunately we didn't have the time, but we're going to create the 5 topic areas so you can see just under the deep web search, there's 451 results in the cluster relating to the topic that we had.
Now, I know you said that it's been turned off from the water droplet. From that first interface, when they click over there,
Mm-hmm.
does that open in a new window?
It'll actually open directly into the search.
Okay. And
So
this is what it will.
yeah, and it's seamless is what we realized this had to be seamless. So it's once you're registered in the VenCorps environment or the water droplet environment, you have direct access to the Inno360 tool. But the water droplet sets the context of what you're going to, as opposed to just having a broad Inno360. By category, we try to narrow down that and set the parameters of what people are seeing and pre-select the data. And we'll control that process working with you so we don't. I know Steve had some concerns of overwhelming, but we have the ability to share what information on the network. You may have partner information, and we'll have information from Inno360 that's contained within the innovation pages.
Okay.
But we turned it off in this case just simply because we wanted it to be specific. So in the water droplet case, the feedback we have is that people want to focus on a couple of main areas. So what we have is we're focused on the energy water nexus. And what we've done is built a community of 10 experts, and they're populating the community, and we're bringing in Inno360 to support that. So it's an integrated tool because the main focus people want to have is what's happening on this landing or innovation page.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking if out of the gate all users had access to Inno360, I mean that's just looking at that search
Yes,
is that's for a higher end user. Um,
absolutely.
so I could see a lot of people just looking at that and saying, "This is too complicated. I'm not using this again." So I guess if it's initially only available to a select group, um, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and the nice thing is by having it built in early, having the ability to turn it on and off, we don't have to go through a redesign. It's already integrated. So as we scale and we see the needs of individual groups, if they want more, we have the ability to access additional search and for specific users. So if we have a PhD somewhere that can benefit and actually make the discussion more robust, we can give them access to the tool because they'll be able to bring that information into the discussion stream.
Now, what about the question that we asked earlier? Several of our partners and sponsors have web-based tools of their own that they want. I mean, obviously they're going to go through our vetting process, but they want them available and if not featured on the network.
Yeah,
um,
and I think one of the things I think what's a little bit different is we built in a lot of adaptability on the front end just simply because we knew we wanted to show HTML sponsor pages. You can see the boxes off to the side. If we had a discussion stream, we can add in the sponsors tool at that point. So we built in the functionality to add it on. And I always think of it similar if you were in Facebook. These are additional applications that's valuable information that we can easily bring in and depending on whether we have to be careful because the question is, do you want to fully redirect someone to a sponsor's page? Or what we can do is similar to what we did with the landscape, it can pop up within the network.
mhm.
And that's just adaptations we could discuss with you easily. But we have the ability to tailor and modify to exactly what the specs you want within this environment.
Okay. Now, um, as far as the activity feed, can that be? I saw the little box over to the right. maybe that's
Yeah, I'll go right back to it. It's actually right on the your dashboard page. So I'll go to your My Account. So you've got the network activity here. This can all be modified to
okay.
actually similar to a news feed like Facebook would have that shows.
I
Um,
think that's kind of more like what we're looking for and what we've seen from a couple others. So
yeah,
um,
and that's what we've actually we're meant to launch this. It's the timing of working on your project fits well because we are launching that new dashboard that it does a couple of things. Is our dashboard takes into the network conversation, so the what's happening on the network, but it also is bringing in specific um, media from other sources that we think will be valuable for the community. And we always talk about in this environment, do we want this to be push or pull? Meaning, do you have to be sent an email or reminder of all the content? What we're finding is more people want to just come to a dashboard similar to what LinkedIn News is doing right now and
right.
have, okay, what's going on? What's the recent updates? So and we're finding more users want to turn off the email notifications, and that's just changing very quickly. So we're adapting that notification page to reflect that.
Okay.
And I think what when we had the conversation in featuring, um, I think you're going to have a lot of content coming from various sources. So that media feed will feature all of that content that you see fit. And
Okay.
we've built that as a an easy admin function that whether you wanted us to manage the content, it's quite easy if you give us specific content. It takes a minute by the admins function for us to add in the content and update the the dashboard for the network news.
Okay.
And that's the truth is a lot of these platforms are changing to have very specific news feeds that don't aren't just the network news but have to be able to bring in other sources, and that's one of the benefits of Inno360 is we'll be able to bring in some pretty high quality information that won't exist anywhere else.
So can you show me an example of maybe how you would pull something from if there's and I don't know maybe if you can demonstrate it on the water droplet, but if there's a community conversation, like say in one of those communities where you showed me how you left a comment earlier, what if somebody wanted to link to something they found on Inno360?
Well, I guess there's two answers to that question. If they're, I guess, if we're defining different users in terms of wanting the full functionality, so if that person was in the Inno360 and went and found that information, they'd be able to click that document and it would actually end up in the news feed of that forum. So that's an example of a user using the tool that we've decided, yes, we want them to have full access to go and do deep web search or find IP sources that are relevant to the conversation. Or alternatively, we will monitor the stream. And that's one of the things that we wanted to focus on. These communities take, it's not just the technology, it's the application and how the community's relating to it. So
Right.
we're going to want to set the tone and guide that initially. So what we'll be doing is going through and finding relevant content and bringing that in as Inno360 into the forum discussion.
Okay.
And that's a guided process, and I don't think you can automate that because you the content the discussions are meant to be fairly robust, and you have to be real time to see what's happening in the discussions. Now what we're finding as we've been testing how to use Inno360 for a broader audience is we find there's some real power users that are will automatically do this. So it's not something that as this process goes on that you need a high level of admin going forward. Is if you set the tone and how the community has you identify those power users, they will bring in the relevant the relevant content from Inno360 to the discussion. And that's when it gets really exciting because at that point the network is taking on a life of its own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way to make this efficient is you initially have to guide it to set the tone going, wow, I like the information I'm seeing. I like the feed. I like the people on it. I love this robust discussion. Okay, you're going to have to set that, and that's why we put a lot of time in our response to actually highlight the community support that we're giving you is to identify the individual users and how they'll want to see information.
Okay, great.
And that's the one thing that there's a lot of evolution and adaptation that's going to happen. We reckon it's interesting because we view this as a whole project. The inventory project is actually quite easy, but we wanted to make sure that we're setting the tone from that project as we go forward because you're putting a foot forward to an audience. So you want to have some content that excites people a little bit and
Right.
makes them want to participate and see how this is going to be used. So that's why we started screenshotting and wanted to show you some of this adaptability that we have within our platform.
Yeah, and that's definitely what we were hoping for, because the inventory, it could be separate, but we really wanted it to be kind of the first introduction to some of these groups to the network.
Yeah, and I think that's why we right off the bat, it was interesting. We started developing this right off the bat because we wanted to see how these topics will lay out. So if we if we were in the water droplet, for instance, quite frankly, under supply and distribution, um, that could be any number of subtopics under supply and distribution, or subgroups that are people that are talking about various things. And you also have the ability to control that. Also could be content that you're sharing. So there's a lot of flexibility that we wanted to give you right off the front end in terms of here's your topic areas and what's the next level and what content do you want to do. So we're pretty excited in actually allowing you to guide that process because the functionality in the front end is here. All we have to do is to find the content that works best for you to lay it out.
And you said just the template. I mean, you had said it was just coincidental that we had five, but just the overall design and the look of this landing page is completely customizable, correct?
Absolutely. We just wanted to show you what we're working with, but if you wanted a different layout, it's actually quite easy to do.
Okay.
It's we think the front end needs to be really adaptable to you. What we call the middle end, which is kind of that functionality of how accounts work and what have you. Like we could change the requirements for. You may not need as much information as I put on the front end. We could change that. It all depends on the user group and how you're trying to do that. So there's the front end in terms of how the look and feel of the site. It's really important that you have the ability to adapt and put your front face on that and how you want people to navigate. And that will evolve a bit as you get more content because what happens early is you don't have any content. So you don't want people to come and go, wow, there's no content. So what you have to do is pre-populate content so they can see the tone of where you're going and
Right.
pre-populate some discussions and some robustness to it because then at that point they'll see where it's going. It's I think most people get a platform and that the truth is just the platform is 20% of the work. How that platform and the experience works is something we spend a lot of time on.
Great.
And it was interesting because the water droplet it continues to evolve. And it evolved based on the feedback we got. I think that's part of what the inventory project is going to help you understand is where is the focus of people, and we should be able to apply that and evolve the platform to respond to that. So the architecture has to be adaptable to allow for that.
All right. Now, one of the other things I wanted to see was forms. Just the use of creating a form. I mean that like I said will be immediately necessary for the inventory, and you guys included a screenshot, but if in the future, we wanted to create a form for, people to input information, standard information on a particular project or something like that. I assume we have that capability.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was showing you initially with the VenCorps in terms of what we did with an entrepreneur. Those boxes and that functionality is really easy to adapt. So what we do is we spend some time with you how you want to design it. All of the functionality is there to add in whatever you want within those fields.
Okay.
So I was showing you the categories. For you, we're probably going to have 6 categories. Subcategories will be defined from the inventory project. And as we go along, we have to have the ability for people to create their own categories or subcategories within the categories. Because at that point, the network's taking on a life of its own. Is that
Um, what about using, say, some sort of survey functionality, like sending out a message, having people complete a survey or something?
Yeah, that's a great question, and there's a couple of different ways to do it. And I guess what I was, if we went to the homepage of just the water droplet, this in effect right on the dashboard, that's the survey. So we could automatically change the dashboard. So the functionality that we were mocking up for you is basically there's a network news component, but we'll have the ability on the dashboard to create an immediate survey so you can get feedback from anyone as soon as they log in. Now, we don't think, like, especially for surveys, we don't really want to send them to another survey function. So we just, a lot of why we've in-house developed all this, because we needed the flexibility because it changes so quickly what people want. So that's, on this dashboard, we could change it, say, when someone comes in, if they immediately come to a survey right off the bat. So we would program it on their dashboard as opposed to sending them to another program. And that we have that ability to do the HTML coding right in that dashboard.
Okay. Yeah, I'm more thinking, more than just clicking to vote or something, something like for a particular group, they log in and see something that might say, you know, tell us what you're doing about patient safe self-management of diabetes or something, and we
It,
have
it,
five questions that we ask them.
and that's great. If you see the just down in the right hand corner below network, we have something called Summit Voting.
Mm-hmm.
We were basically doing just that. We wanted to try to see if we can pull out more information. So we could expand that and have it be any toggle, any question, anything that you want. And we could change it to the individual user group and stakeholders that you want.
Okay.
There is a lot of adaptability to this because we do all the design and programming in-house for the front end. So if you come to us and quite frankly, you tell us what the survey is, we're pretty comfortable in terms of why we bid that we could turn that around within 24 hours and change the dashboard for that user group you wanted to communicate with.
And you said you're working on updating the dashboard.
Yes. Yeah. It was just unfortunate in terms of the timing that we were testing a few different ways to bring in network activity. And what we're doing now is actually taking a very robust comments field discussion from the water droplet and then and creating a whole new dashboard. So the media is there. It's the truth is it's very similar to LinkedIn News, which we're all big fans of because it's three relevant pieces of information, but it also includes what's going on within your LinkedIn network. We think within the VenCorps environment, that's really how the dashboard should look.
Okay. So I mean, I'll be very transparent. We are also looking at Jive and really like the look and feel of the user interface of Jive. Just
Oh,
the
great.
news feed, how things are arranged. So that's kind of we really like, the look of that and the feel of that and the ease of it. So if you guys are moving to something similar, like, a little bit more similar as far as that a new dashboard. That I think that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and that's exactly where we're going. And quite frankly, we can design you the exact same Jive dashboard if that's what you like. This is why in the front end, all of the front end we can tailor, um, and how we integrate the Inno360 tool by user groups. All of that's easy to change.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for our standpoints because we do all of this in-house design. It's easy to change the dashboard and bring the information in, and we can do that within looking at where the 2 weeks. I did have a question in terms of as we go into the survey process. You're going to have different users, aren't you? You're going to have obviously a base user that's filling out that survey. Is that correct?
Yes.
The good news is they're in the system, so they'll have a base user functionality, and then later, as they choose to subscribe, they can adapt and they'll get more functionality. So there's a base user that's getting free access to certain functionality. Is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent. So okay,
Initially, it will really just be to log in and participate in the inventory.
great. All right, so they're not going to be preloaded. It's going to be quite simple. A log to the web address, a very simple login, and then right off the bat they'll come to the survey. So I just wanted to make sure we got how simple that's going to be.
Yes.
Okay, and then the second thing. Here's the question: in terms of reporting. There's a couple of different ways. I can give you an admin view, which is very similar to the front end experience that just allows you to see access to all the results in the environment as it is on the front end. Or I could give you more robust back end reporting. It all depends on what you're looking and going to use it for. So, and that's something we can discuss in terms of how you want to use it.
Okay. Well, Steve would be the person to ask.
Okay.
I'm going to guess we might want a little bit of both, but
Yeah.
I think we're want to be able to, download it. I don't know, but he can answer that question.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And again, what we can do is tailor that quite easily. I just wanted to make sure we had the front end is how you were looking for it, and then how adaptable that is going forward. But in truth, from a network standpoint, we're going to we're going to modify our approach to exactly what you want, and have the in-house team and have had bid accordingly. That there's a bit of work that's going to be involved with that.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I think that's. I think you've given me what we were looking for, and hopefully we can share this with Steve. And you said I can still log in. I can use that login on the water droplet just to look around.
Yeah, sure enough. It's your last name with a capital C is your password, so you can go log in at any time.
Okay.
And I think you would have received an email as well verifying on the VenCorps site, because on VenCorps we use email notifications. On Water Droplet we only use the email notifications if you're commenting. So it's really user specific in terms of someone whether they want it. And we're evolving. That's to the media screen that we want people to continually come back. And I know this is what you'd want within the if I was in the field, I want to, it'd be just up there with my news. And then I want to go to the Virginia Health Innovation Network to see what's going on. I think that's where you're going, correct?
Yes.
Great. And that's kind of how everything's evolving. People are over getting notifications by email. So we've adapted that to make sure. And this is why we've added in, Shayla's a journalist, so we add in a lot of content that we'll be able to help you curate and present. So that's where her background and experience comes in. And she was trying to allude that today, that saying with new users, they need to absorb similar to the way they absorb media in every other place. And that's what's changed from enterprise networks in the last 5 years is we're all familiar with LinkedIn and Facebook and we're quite comfortable with those screens. So what we need to do is to adapt private networks to do the exact same thing for the same type of information that's specific to that network.
Great.
So
yes, I agree with that. I delete most, if I get any email notifications, I usually just delete them at this point.
And that's a wonderful transition, and it's great for strong networks that right. I call it push pull.
Yeah, you want people logging in, not just reading an email. So
Yeah, and it's funny. We did a lot of work because the water droplet was launched at the World Summit of Innovation. So we did a lot of work, and our screen is actually a little bit bigger than most websites. We actually designed mobile first, because we're realizing that people want to go to networks, especially that there's good content there, and they want to comment pretty quickly. And you'll notice we don't use a lot of LinkedIn integration and Facebook integration, or Twitter, because we want to maintain that conversation within the network, because that's the value. So we've kind of gone the other way, saying if we can deliver the network community discussion that's robust, that's vibrant, and that's real time on my mobile, there's no need to have anything posting to any other networks, because we want to contain the content within our networks.
right.
And that's a really different approach. And I think for a subscription network, that's incredibly important, that you have the ability to be the one-stop information source, rather than people getting it and pushing it to other platforms.
That sounds great to me.
We and this is all part of the process of understanding the network effects, because they're different for different user groups. We actually have to communicate with entrepreneurs different than we do with investors. So, and that's where Shayla's expertise in terms of user experience. What are the network effects that we're trying to achieve? Should this information be shareable across other social networks, to create interest, or should it be just fully contained with that expert user group? So, one of the things that we really enjoy about private networks is you have the ability to control the user experience, to moderate it, and create really great, robust discussions.
Hmm.
So I hope I've given you a little insight into the front end, and how adaptable it is, and some of our methodology of how we use, how we use some really powerful search to enhance network discussions.
You have, yes, this has been very helpful.
Okay, great. And what I'll do is, I've got the recording here. I'm going to just hit stop on the recording, and
Okay.
I should be able to